Like always, this video is brought to you by Bottom Slap, which is the pants that I'm currently wearing. They are presentable, they are comfortable, and I just like it lah. So if you are interested, link down below. Enjoy the video. What's up guys? Welcome back to another reaction series, and today we are going to react to what?
This is a TV show from TV called Square Feet.
Square Feet.
Yeah, so they visit multiple like designer homes. Usually take a tour of the whole house, how it's built, the story behind the house.
Oh, so it's like a more formal thing of what we do lah. Okay, so like, yeah, this is done by professionals, I think. Then it's TV3. For those who don't know what is TV3, it's our national television. When's the last time you scrolling TV3? Yeah, so let's watch it together. Like, turun balik zaman kanak-kanak. I remember the Apollo ads.
Oh, yeah.
Apollo.
Rumah kecil ataupun tiny house adalah sebuah konsep kediaman yang direka dalam memenuhi impian, terutamanya bagi mereka yang belum memiliki atau sedang mencari sebuah kediaman.
Why must speak so slow? Rumah kecil adalah rumah yang didiami oleh orang yang... Okay, anyway, sorry.
Anggaran keluasan sesebuah tiny house kebiasaannya berukuran di antara 400 square feet sehingga 900 square feet.
400 square feet sehingga 900 square feet. They say that these tiny house concepts are adapted because they want to save costs. They want to have a minimalist. I don't really agree. Like, it's not really minimalist. It's just that your space cannot put in more stuff. So that's the only way. If not, you don't even have floor space to walk around anymore. And when he says 400 to 900 square feet, 900 square feet, it's my apartment unit already. So how is that small? So yeah.
Kini, tiny house bukan sahaja telah menjadi trend di kebanyakan negara di dunia, malah ia telah mula bertapak dan trending di Malaysia.
Wow, the pace is so slow.
I have to feel that slot.
Oh yeah, they are limited by time, right? But anyway, something cool, right? We measure everything else on meters or mm, but we still measure our area by square feet. That's something very weird in Malaysia.
Tentang tiny house yang menjadi trend
Oh,
di
Kuala
kebanyakan
Pilah
negara di dunia, termasuklah di
something cool, like my wife was assigned to work in the hospital there. They have a professional or specialist hospital there, and it attracts a lot of people around Malaysia because they get rotated for the first 2 years for pharmacies, right? Then the taman for houses there, you know, postcodes, like every new street you will revise a new stretch, like 03579. Then the other row is the pasangan one, like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. In that taman, right, the house number can go up to 5-digit one. So the house that my wife was staying is for example, is like 21034. So the post department, right, didn't want to restart the number for every street. They just continue over different taman. So like they will go by serial number, like, oh, you're the 3-digit one, you're the 4-digit one, you're the 5-digit one. And when I was staying there, the rental there was not cheap. So a single story house back then, like a few years ago, is like maybe 100, 200 over 1,000. But the rental can go up to 2,000 plus. Yeah, so like in terms of returns, right, it's awesome. And like there's a lack of marketplace to find out where to rent because it's not as popular. So it's a lot of insider, those market uncle, are you looking for a space to rent? It's like that one. And it's always like by seniors' recommendations to the junior, and then the junior will rent the place that the seniors left. So I always don't understand that, like who's going to know, like within the housing estate, which house is for rent, how I know? Yeah lah, last time no iProperty, no property guru, okay lah. But what I'm trying to say is in local residential areas like this, they will always have different dynamics. Right? And the shop offices there are crazy expensive because the lack of supply. There are just not as many developers in small areas, but there are a lot of rich people hide, or I say escape the system in small areas. Cool fact, I'm very familiar there. I like go to the market a lot.
My name is Alan.
Nama saya Irina.
And we live in a tiny house.
Lahili Tiny House.
dah sampai di Lahili Tiny House kampung dia Kuala Pilah. Apa yang paling bestnya dekat sini, saya dikelilingi oleh tumbuhan-tumbuhan.
Does it feel like he's reading script? Right, the eyes is not. But something to.
house, John.
Sorry. Okay, right. I'm like commenting media stuff, right? But something to point out first, you look into the roads, right? Those are local roads, and this is how usually roads start. Whenever a car pass by a kebun or kawasan tanaman, right, or a plantation, they will leave tracks. So, like you see the rough one, those are usually called crusher runs. So usually, like for 4x4, like back then when we were clearing land, what we don't want is direct earth. Like you look into the side of the roads, those are. It can be clay, it can be different red soils or whatsoever. Those will stick to the tires, and that's what makes the car skid during rainy days. But when they put in a layer of crusher runs, then they'll put sand to settle them, then it will be a bit harder for cars to go through. So it's a little bit more safe because it adds friction between the tire and the ground, right? Then the problem with all this kind of thing is there's no drain. So old roads and new roads, whatever you see in the city, right? Actually under the roads, there are just a lot of different services like your fiber, water, sewage, then your rainwater drain as well. And there's a lot of people don't know this, there's a requirement of distance between your electric cables to your water. Then there's also a requirement from the water to the sewage, because just in case leakage, it might seep through. So for a dense location such as Mont Kiara or Sunway City or wherever like Desa City or whatever, the roads, if you were to dig out, right, there are just a lot of different services all laying underneath the roads. And that's what brand new cities are for. Like a lot of people still don't get like old township and new township. Part of the new township, you are paying for the very tidy things above ground because everything is done underneath. So all this one, like you see the electrical posts, the poles are still all old ones.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Nice to see you here.
I pernah nampak this type dekat New Zealand, but that one is bun type. Dia punya lagi besar daripada ni. Tapi you punya just nice. I like it.
Okay, so what you see here is timber platform. But what you cannot see are the trusses underneath. So the columns and the structural elements below the platform, right? Because this is built in a location where they don't really have a lot of strong foundations, and it will be very costly to do foundations. So what they do is usually they will just do simple piles and some concrete structure, and they start laying all the roof trusses around. Trusses are for roofs, so they put beams around and wood, then there's a whole different knowledge to it. Like for outdoor woods, right? A lot of people don't know this, like during the flood in my house, those outdoor furnitures with hardwood made, right, are still around. Like they are standing strong. So like hardwoods like nyato, meranti, cengau or teak, like those can really withstand rain, but it's costly. So like old time bridge or things like that. Like then the materials at the outer surface of the house, those are corrugated aluminium frames. So those are pretty standard that we use for roofs. But it was very popular for a while to use it on the surface of the wall. Then there's this, if you go to KL Pack, you will see a lot of these kind of designs. Like they build on existing structure of brickworks, then they mix black metal with timber, and those are the design trends. I don't think this is industrial though, I just think that this is a little bit more vernacular. Vernacular is a term where the architecture is supposed to respond to nature. So it's instead of this structure being built using stones or using solid concrete, so they go with something more native, local materials. So that's what we learn a lot about architecture, like to use materials available, then your architecture suddenly will make more sense as it responds to the environment. If not, right, if it's an all white kind of thing, that would make sense in Greece, Santorini, right? But it won't look so out of place here. Your one is a beach and one is like a forest in Kuala Pilah.
300 square feet.
300 square feet?
Yeah.
Total all?
Well, just the house.
Just the house?
Just the house, not including the deck.
Wow.
So like a simple touch of changing the frames of the window into black, that responds very well to the structure outdoor. Then so I think it's designed before, but 300 square feet, it's very small.
Sebab nature, dia punya environment nature memang best.
You know, for outdoor, right? Like, have you go into a durian plantation before? The worst thing? Yes. It's so intense, right? When you walk, you will step on mosquito, you know. So I've been there once and that's it. As much I love nature, right? I don't think it's practical at all. And no matter how you smoke them, like we take all the coconut husk, then we dry them, then we just like smoke asapkan, right? Even humans cannot take it already. The mosquito is just chilling. It's crazy, man. Like, as much I love outdoors for Malaysia,
Okay. Apa kata? Masuk dalam rumah sekarang.
Jom. I tengok you punya dining area ni, you dah ambil environment luar dah masuk ke dalam ni.
Kan, senang sit down dan nampak dah kat luar.
You pakai metal structure kat atas ni?
Yang tu memang design wise, I think it adds a little bit of some interesting points lah in the house kan, sebab because this house is made of steel frame. So banyak steel, macam ni ada steel. So that's part of the whole concept lah.
why use steel? Because it's easy to work with, it's fast, it's light. So in comparison, if you were to build this entire thing with brick, it would take like way longer. Then you will add more load to the foundation as well. Then just now what they talked about the indoor-outdoor kind of thing is because of the house being more transparent, meaning you have the full glazing, especially like when we look into corner lots of terrace houses. Like the dining space always feels way better in a corner lot because they are just way more daylight. And there's this terminology again in architecture where we emphasize a lot of indoor-outdoor relationship. So we want the view, we want the scenery as the background, but we don't want the heat, we don't want the water, we don't want the mosquitoes. Yeah, so when the aluminium and glazing technology really advanced, like when we created glass and the technology for glass as a material advanced, and now we have tempered, we have laminated, we have sandwich, right, kind of things, then that allowed the house to be way more diverse compared to last time. If you look into old architecture, right, Stone Age time, windows are very small. Yeah, and in churches only you get to see stained glass because they are very difficult to manufacture. So it was a form of luxury. Ah, cool. I didn't know how it went there, but but looking at the house, it's designed before. So you look into the roof structure, like those we spoke before, like it's supposed to be shaped like that instead of a straight one because it allows water to flow. So by using a flat roof instead, like if this is a container kind of house, there will be problems because water will stay stagnant, and that's the worst. When there's water being in the one place, then they will find ways to penetrate through. In other words, it's called leaking lah. So we suddenly, why got mark here, why got mark there?
Your sinky sangat simple. Tapi biasa saya tengok kalau dekat tiny house lain, sinky kecil je.
Yeah.
So they use a wooden countertop, but I wish that they could have went with other materials because the problem with wood is the grains and the textured layers. So when you wipe, right, you cannot 100% clean it. Yeah, so we also spoke about like from the back splash over to the countertop. Then we have the bottom mounted, so we can just wipe everything into the basin. That will be way easier. But since you're like your basin is so modern, your tap is so modern, right? Might as well just go modern all the way. And we spoke about this also, like the kitchen space is always the most modern space in the house.
Kena ada at least sinki ni memang tak boleh nak short, nak kecil-kecil ke apa, memang cakap dengan Mas.
And if you notice like why I say this space is designed, right? The window is positioned way nicely on the vista of the user. So like if you look into the host, like it's like too tall already. If you were to stand straight, right, the window is not for him. But something about architecture is you respond to the user. So when she is cleaning, then when she get up, the view is whatever she wants to see. And that's what great architecture is about. You take into consideration vista. Vista is your point of view and your experience on daylighting and ventilation. And it also, like once you open this, you open at the front door and the front, there will be cross ventilation. Wind goes like that. Yeah.
You punya place dekat sini, oh kitchen sampai sana. Memang praktikal.
Yeah. You see our appliances also semua dekat sini.
Okay. Memang dah tersusun rapi dekat sini kan.
Dah tersusun ya.
Washing machine ni,
Yes,
Washer dryer.
The building height, I think, is like the upper floor, right? I think it's like 2.1 meters max. Like let's say the host is 1.8, he's tall, not like me. I wish I'm taller. But if you're just judging based on that, right, I think the platform up there, so it's from the floor up to the one is max, I think 2.1 meters for your upper platform already. And the problem with tiny houses, not problem, but part of the characteristic is to not go too high. A lot of people, oh, I want tiny house, but my roof gotta be very high. Then because a lot of people think about this level without thinking about the staircase. The higher you go, the longer your staircase needs to be in order to reach that space, and that takes up space too. So like why the staircase can be like so tight and nice, because the height is not too much, and since the user is not too tall, not like the host, I think the host can just like muscle up, go up. So like they can just do this nicely. So I like this because it responds a lot to the user.
Washer dryer oven,
This one, the
electric
reason-
stove.
Electric stove sebab kalau letak apa tu tong gas tu kita orang dah
We don't
tak
know where to
cukup.
put, yeah.
What's very weird is you have the exhaust suction thingy next to a window. I could have gone with a ventilation fan, but maybe like during rainy time,
Oh, rain time lah.
maybe during rain then it makes sense lah. Because when you suck like that, right, it's about effectiveness, like how strong. Only in like apartments it makes a lot of sense because rarely we have such openings next to the cooking area. That's why it limits, like for city people we don't usually cook heavy stuff. But then you have such an open area, why worry about smell? But since it looks nice lah, right? It looks nice. You know what's so scary about this? There's no gate, it's free for all. Yeah, like imagine, right, at night you sleep, right? Aren't you scared? So maybe I don't know whether will they like explain, like maybe they'll be a compound, because like fortunately they inherited this. And like if you are located next to a river, a lot of people may not know this, there will be a buffer before. For example, the river here, you need to have certain buffer around 10 meters or 30 meters, depends on the width of the river. Then only you can start building. Cool fact is if you don't do anything to the river and one day the river expands, at the edge starts counting 30 meters again. And if that 30 meters include your land, then suddenly you cannot build on your land anymore. So it means that if you're like in Riverside, wow, nice, right? But as the soil erosion happens, if the river starts widening, which it usually happens, it starts eating into your land. Then right, as the river starts widening, then the boundary from the edge of the river to, if it eats up into your land, right, suddenly your land belongs to the buffer.
Means it only makes sense if you also treat the soil around.
Yes, yes. Yeah, you need to do more things actually. So a lot of people think that riverside living is good. There will be cons as well, especially in the rural areas where they have like all these small little streams of water. And a lot of people fight and apply to properly divert the water, like meaning create a concrete drain to let the water flow instead of just letting it go free. Yeah, but I think development has not reached to that extent. That's why they can just live with it first now.
Tiny house living, the most important part is the layout. Because imagine you're gonna be living in this tiny house for many years, right? Maybe until you're...
So you look into the foundation. So it's just a footing. So at the brickwork area at the bottom here. So that's just a footing. It means that I need to have something solid where it cannot move. Then I start using that as my leg, as the foundation for the whole house. And it's important for everything to stay light. Then you can see all the pipings where it's for water at the bottom next to the huge leaves. Yeah, so you need to think about water inlet and water outlet. A lot of people don't show you this because it doesn't look nice. So like for this kind of structure, then the problem with this kind of thing is you will have biawaks. You will have a lot of wild animals staying underneath. Yeah, so like during rainy days, back then when I was staying in my kampong, right, they will have frogs, they will have the biawaks that just suddenly when you sleep next to it,
You have to consider every single thing.
Yeah.
So yang first kali memang untuk the kids first.
Yeah.
Sebab you need to convince them kan. So it's a bit difficult.
So like I said just now, if they use bricks, then it's going to take a long time. So brickworks are usually only for areas that are more structural dependent. It needs to hold something, then only you put bricks. But for modern buildings right now, bricks are also partitioned only, because the whole structure is already held by the beams and columns. So it's just a partition use. This one, like you see, everything is still. It's fast, it's light. You can erect this like maybe like a month. And you see the sandwich things. So the problem with these kind of things, I don't think they will add in further foams like all the gulong. All those are the internal inserts for the walls. insulations for heat insulation and for noise insulation. And the problem with, like, a lot of people don't know that container. I stayed in a container before at site, and last time we played sports, so we got no budget, then they just stuff us in a container. It's like, a lot of people do not understand what heat insulation means. When it's noon, right, it's like an oven. Then when it's at night, it's freezing cold. So like having concrete structures or brickworks, we are just so used to it, right, when we change environment. And that will be the main challenge as well here. This kind of structure then will be the noise. Imagine cafes, like those mezzanine cafes that they use this kind of structure as well. Every girl that in heels walks upstairs, right, the whole cafe will know, dong, 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 dong. But this is in the forest, so it doesn't matter lah.
If they don't understand, we made them a part of the
so you see the insulation is done really well, and I think they are pretty experienced. Like they really respond to whatever need. And usually, you see the triangle, right? Usually we will add in another layer of ceiling so we can partition the heat. So usually the air within that triangle will be heated up, right? So then if I were to add a plaster ceiling or whatever ceiling material, then it will contain the air to not go into the space. Yeah, so they use it part as the architecture of the interior space. So what that requires is more of insulation. You look into the white foams at the edge, right? You see how thick they are. So then you add the foam, then you need to add the chicken mesh. We call it chicken mesh, right? It's like a web kind of metal sheet to stick on it. Then they put aluminium, and they only put the outer layer. And then something also consider for those roofing materials is when rain hits, right, what noise does it make? Old zinc type is like whoa, but on modern materials, I think they have certain improvements on the materials already. Then the noise insulation, it doesn't vibrate as much. So it's a lot to do with the thickness of the material. You know, you can adjust the pitch. Here thinner, then what am I talking about?
Oh, I like your feature wall. Punya apa tingkap-tingkap kat rumah tiny house you ni macam frame kan bila tengok dekat luar semua.
So the concept sama lah. Bring the outside in, you know, so you still feel the nature even though you are inside this house.
Wow.
So this is the loft. Come.
A problem which will happen in a dining space is you will have a lot of, because the fan is below the light. Then your entire wall is frame rates.
So this is my son's tempat tidur and tempat study.
Yeah.
So you can see the bed is right there, just next to the window. Yeah. So our window is very wide and long, you know, so you can also see outdoors.
You're right, like privacy. So, but I think the kids is still small lah. When they reach a certain age, when they need to do their own things, we know what, right? Then it's just not convenient. But we'll talk about practicality later lah. But like again, the windows are designed with the user in mind. A lot of people think that just because we mass produce our houses, so it's just like a standard above 900, I put my windows, that's it. But here they know exactly like where is the bed when I wake up, what I want to see, and that is the result of thoughtfulness lah. Instead of just like the different tiny house that we see before, and those are done by normal contractor. For this one, it's done by the user, and they know accurately how high, how wide.
This is our second dining area, family area.
Family area. Yeah.
Sangat selesa.
And Big Boss Jacob sleep there.
Wow, you see, that's like the closest distance to aircon you ever sleep. You can touch the aircon blower, no need remote. Tit.
So inilah tempat kita
So
orang.
ni tempat diorang masing-masing lah.
Ya.
Sangat menarik lah. Memang menarik ni punya tiny house ni. Nampak kecil tapi bila masuk dekat dalam ni rasa macam
You see the host is so tall. His hair is already touching.
tak lemas. Tak nampak kecil.
So here's our wash area.
Wow.
And wardrobe right here.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's everything. Semua baju dekat sini je.
Semua baju dekat sini.
Yeah. Let's go to our toilet.
Okay.
Yeah. You can see also we also use this barn door to save some space. You know?
Tak payah buka.
So this kind of barn door are common in cafes around KL. So it gives you that very rugged look that is top hung. So they actually slide from the top, not from the bottom.
We have the first curtain here, right? First level of privacy.
First level. Okay.
And then
And then second level of privacy.
Second level.
Yeah, second level.
And
And
then,
then the third level of privacy. So this is our master bedroom.
Wow! 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 I love the view. Very nice.
Yeah.
Wow, you punya bedroom ni memang tak boleh halih dah kan?
tak boleh, dia memang ngam-ngam je.
Oh, so it's
Masuk, zip this.
Yes.
Ni.
So this
So the guy who shot that scene was on the bed lah. Okay, we shall stop commenting from a production point of view.
furniture, this bed actually, I measured the size, the dimensions of the bed frame first.
Okay.
Then baru I designed the size of the room.
Ngam-ngam untuk keluar yang kat sana je.
Wow.
And then the best part is the view again.
The view, you see the view? Oh my goodness.
You have large.
I love the
And this is the very not so pleasant side of houses, the aircon pipings. And as tedious you are towards the main spaces, right? A lot of people just don't care about how they join the aircon. And you can see it's an afterthought kind of thing, like the brick wall was done up, then hey, I want to put an aircon, they are just like they just like plaster, then ciao, okay, $500, ciao, right? So you see, that's the very unfortunate thing. So like whatever we see in the videos that a lot of people feature tiny house, right? They don't feature all the sewerage joints, the water joints, the aircon joints and things like that.
I love the view.
So this just reminds me why I don't like to watch TV.
I really appreciate what my wife has done to me, for this family as well. So Alhamdulillah, without her support and sacrifice, I think we will not be able to have this one.
So you see the pipings at the back to the whole black wall at the side. So those are the inlets. No. So these are practical.
So it should be shown so that it's easier for repair work.
Yeah. Because since it's a single user, I can just expose everything. Just that a lot of times when we do things in mass again, I want fast, I want efficiency. So since it's concealed, I just do it. So when you see corridor spaces, there are corridors that are exposed, so you can see the services are laid really nicely. But when you tell the contractor, hey, it's going to be a plaster ceiling here, okay, shortest distance, not straight, nice, presentable distance. Since it's going to be concealed anyway, why do so nice? But in terms of practicality wise, if you look into old houses, all services are exposed. Like even rainwater down pipe, you have the like those cast iron type of rainwater down pipe last time, or those sewage pipe, right? It's very loud, but it's solid and it's exposed. Then suddenly when we start using plastics, then it's all concealed within the structure. So sometimes you have a column that is, so the column is like that, but in order to fit a pipe here, then they start concealing the pipe as well. But when the pipe leaks, the only way you can tell is when the whole wall starts peeling in terms of paint. Oh, only I know it's leaking. Then I need to hack the structure just to fix the pipe inside. Aesthetic versus practicality lah. If not, you pay 1 million to look at pipes.
Last time the telephone line also like coming to the house.
Yeah. So we have a friend's house that we visited lately. It's like direct from the house going in. Yeah. So like no matter how you can dress up, that part cannot dress up. Oh, it's still the same. These are the architects.
Reka bentuk untuk tiny house, kami akan ambil kira tentang mezzanine level ataupun tak perlu buat mezzanine. Sekiranya nak buat mezzanine level, kami akan go for A shape. Sekiranya tak perlu, kami akan buat box house. Okay.
Mezzanine meaning the loft area. And the loft, it's a proper term. Actually, it's like a 1.5 kind of story where you will have, and usually that is where people put the bed, like the one that we visited in establishment, the same building with Alila. When you go out, you go into the unit, it's a kitchen, then upstairs will be the space where you sleep. And it's not meant for you to fully stand. But suddenly, there's this adaptation of the term as the ID design team, which is very different also. So I want the loft concept. So the loft concept is usually red bricks, like iron, like those black irons and glazings. So suddenly that becomes like a design team instead, but the loft is the mezzanine kind of concept. Yeah, part of Empire building, the office buildings are loft. And when your ceiling height 4 meters or 3.8 meters, you can do a loft already. And because your kitchen space ultimately, last time, right, like we are now so spoiled with building heights that is around 3 meters. now 10 feet. Like, you see, now it's standard. It was not the standard. If you go to old buildings, it's 2.8 meters. It's 2.8 meters. It's not standard. So suddenly, like, we are all now sort of like 3 meters. We were so low, 11 feet. So now 3.3 is the standard. So we see 3.3s in semi-Ds, bungalows. So when you have around 3.8, people do mezzanine already. And the kitchen space is always the space where you don't need a lot of height. You don't need a lot of height on toilet. So that's why they park it under. It's also more practical because your guests actually can. And it's very costly to put the toilet upstairs because those are dead weight. Means like just now you look into the design, usually the structure around the toilet needs to be solid because the toilet bowl, the basin, everything need pretty heavy.
First, kita kena tahu konsep dulu lah. Konsep apa yang kita nak buat. Kalau konsep tu kita dah tahu, then kita akan go for plan sesuatu lah. Untuk plan sesuatu ni kami akan buat.
So this is your schedule, your building schedule. Whenever in your SPA, so it's almost like that lah. So not the reka bentuk, that's the design stage lah. So generally when you work with an architect, these are the requirements, and I think there's a portion of our audience actually wants to build their own house, and that is the concept that you need to go through. So I emphasized this before, like developers has done way more than just providing us the house. It's getting the approval, the coordination between different trades. Easily they need to go to 18 different departments for approval just to get your house built, right? Then where does your building tap for water, tap for electric, tap for fiber, tap for sewerage and things like that. So all are required to be done. And why architect? It's because in Malaysia we still need architecture certification for building. In Australia, contractors can build. Yes. So it's about different requirements. So here, no matter how you do, you still need to have a sign off by an architect. So not unqualified, unregulated. So anybody like today, like Sean Tan construction company, then I'm a contractor already. They can start providing services already. So there's not really like oh, what's your qualification? It's all by word of mouth. Oh, that guy can do things one, or that guy cheap, that guy fast. But I certainly think that the industry is moving towards that way. Like our public listed construction companies are very good. Like our construction arm for infrastructures especially is damn good. Our MRT builds damn bloody fast, right? Just the maintenance of it is a whole different mindset lah, right? We all know Malaysian.
Okay, selepas dah setuju dengan plan, kami akan go for buat 3D perspektif. Kalau daripada mula dengan klien, kita kena tengok juga. Contoh kalau tanah tu tanah kosong, dan kita akan ambil setback mengikut requirement daripada majlis lah. Biasa requirement daripada majlis yang berdekatan dengan jalan 20 kaki, yang berdekatan dengan jiran ataupun jalan kecil 10 kaki sahaja.
So what he talks about is setback. So it's in accordance to these guidelines called UBBL, Uniform Building Bylaw. I think it's 1960 something or 1972. It's the editor. So based on that, so whenever you have a piece of land, depends on the surrounding. Like, is there adjacent to a road? Is it adjacent to a river? Like the river story just now, like there's a setback before the river, and you need to have a setback from the road. So if the road is a big road, the bigger the road is, the more setback you need to provide when you want to build your house. So when local roads like Rumah Kampung, you don't need to provide that much setback because what's the worst that can happen? But if it's a federal highway next to your house, then it's a problem. So you see that in the city as well, where you see the roads width and the distance away from the adjacent building.
But about highway, like, I think some parts of LDP is too much.
Yeah, so why LDP you have things that are too close? The highways are the highways came after the development. So it's like the one that cuts through the mines. Yeah, the highway that cuts through mines, right? So that is it's like an afterthought kind of thing. So suddenly you see that the roads are windy, and it's called a highway, but you still have branched out from the highway. That's weird. The highway that I know, needs to be, there's a tier system: highway, main road, primary road, secondary road, tertiary road, local road. So the size matters, how many lanes. But that one,
sekiranya dia tanah lot, kita boleh terus form dia kat situ lah. Contoh kalau tanah pertanian lebih kurang dalam 3 ekar, tiny home ni bukan setakat untuk rumah yang kecil saja. Kita boleh buat jadi as a resort. Kita boleh buat jadi homestay, retreat home. Tiny home ni antara bajet yang paling murah lah untuk didiami. Untuk pembinaan, kita akan ada buat kerja tanah sekiranya tanah tu tak rata, sebab biasanya kita design untuk tanah rata. Untuk tanah yang rata, foundation dia kita akan select go for.
So this is called Raft foundation. So it's one flat layer. It's as if it's a boat that floats on whatever soil that is within and beneath, right?
For Raft foundation. Raft foundation ni sebab apa kita pilih?
You see, like those are called soil pipes. So like they are different. So the brown ones are for sanitary use. The white ones are for water. Then you can see the one at the edge. So that's the machine used to compact the soil. So once you see the soil has reached a certain layer, right? Then we put in the crusher run again, the hard layer, and then we will compact all together. Then we put sand to the level that we want. Then only we put the concrete. Then we start casting. Then these are the rebars. The rebars are, and why concrete is not the same with cement? Concrete is steel, reinforced steel mixed with cement. That's why it's called concrete. And why concrete is one of the best inventions in the world, because it can withstand both compact load and tension. It's strength and tension wise. Otherwise they call it ketenggalan and kekuatan. Two different. Kekenyalan and kekuatan. Because Sunday I watch BM show, all my brain thinks in BM really. Yeah, so like what you see here, those are the things, and those are the links. Like the rebar are the main ones, then they are the small horizontal ones. Those are the links. And like you see, it's like random, but there's a specification. If you look into engineering drawing, they will be specifying how many links between and the distance between each and every link. After this, they will start laying formworks. So you can see the plywoods at the end. Those are formworks. Formworks are there to withstand the slur. The slur is the
Just to give shape
to the concrete. Yeah. And then concrete will cure within 3 to 5 or 7 days. It depends on the specification of the, we call it grade of the concrete. So the grade of the concrete is again the ratio between cement, the aggregates inside, then the water. Yeah, so the harder it is, then the more non-slurry it is. So like for the same concrete that they use for KLCC, it's going to be very different from a single story structure. Okay? And just now what the architect said is also, just now we mentioned, because the surface layer of the ground for the house is not straight, it's not linear. Therefore, if you want to build something, it's difficult. I need to clear the land again. Then the whole concept of living within nature is not there anymore. So instead, they use foundations and to jack up the whole floor platform of the house. So instead of doing this kind of thing for conventional houses.
Sebab contoh kalau kita buat foundation dengan rough foundation, saya cerita sikit. Strip foundation ni, rumah tu macam ni. Strip foundation tu dia setiap tiang. So sekiranya tanah tu lembut, tanah ni dia punya kekuatan dia tak sama semua. Sekiranya tanah.
So actually these are defects. You see the honeycomb thingies, so those are defects in terms of construction. But there are certain tolerance that we can take it lah. So like this is when, because whenever we pour concrete, there needs to be a vibrator. I know it sounds wrong. Yeah, so there's like a ball where it vibrates. So it needs to let the concrete actually settles in the very hard edges. And because the concrete consists of all these aggregates, they are stone. So you need to make sure the stones are all together in that particular corner. So yeah, same. So you have the suddenly part of the cape collapse because at the edge, yeah, there's air inside. Correct, you are right. Never would I have thought it in comparison to baking. Yeah.
Tanah tu lembut, dia akan turun sebelah. So itu yang menyebabkan crack. Itu orang panggil crack structure. Sekiranya rough foundation ni, dia macam rakit. Asas rakit ni, dia akan turun sekali. Sekiranya belah sini tanah lembut pun, kalau sini kuat, dia akan pegang juga. So dia takkan turun. Macam itulah. Sebab tu kami select rough foundation. Lepas tu kami go for steel structure. Structure ni, sebab apa kami pilih steel?
So just now the scene you can see is the joint of different materials. You have the concrete, then you have the steel. Then what they do, they just bolt into the concrete layer. Very direct, nothing quite straightforward lah.
Steel ni dia lebih mengurangkan masa-masa untuk buat structure tu.
Mengurangkan masa-masa. Whatever I say is correct. I could go on a show lah.
Biasanya kami akan pakai sistem dry system lah orang panggil. Dry system ni sebab apa kami select dry system?
I think these are the inserts and for insulation. They call it foam lah, right? So you can see those things, and it's pretty incredible. Like when you have structures without them and with them, huge difference. But then what contractors always try to be funny is how solid and compact the foams within. Because after this, I'm going to conceal them, then you don't see them. Only when you realize that it's empty, then you open, but that one is don't know how many years down the road already. So it's very difficult for inspection. That's why on site usually they will have a clerk of work. Clerk of work is a representative from the architect. So because the architect cannot be on site all the time, so the clerk of work supposedly on site to check and inspect all this. Before you want to conceal, then you need my signature before you conceal. But you can pakat one.
Sebab kami nak.
So you can see the brick walls at the back. Those are for the strong places that they want to be. Like those are the platforms for the kids. The room just now upstairs. So those requires a little bit more structural strength instead of just the platform for walking through the kitchen. So all these requires different strength. Therefore, these walls then you cannot hack. So lift cores in apartments usually are the strong ones, but the one they use for bricks, usually because the whole building can stand using concrete alone, but why they still use these bricks surrounding the lift, and that's the safest zone within the building. In case any fire, the fire staircase is surrounded by a very thick layer of brick wall. So we call it double wall, meaning like a wall that is laid double the thickness of a conventional brick. So the wall is like 250 mm, it's huge. It's there for a reason. And you go and knock, when you are in the fire staircase, you try to knock on the wall, it's super solid.
Kami akan tanggung waranti rumah tu selama 6 bulan.
Okay, Mr. Allen, Marina, terima kasih banyak-banyak kerana habiskan masa dengan kita orang hari ini dekat tiny house you ni. Proses dekorasi kediaman, baik di dalam maupun di luar, adalah perkara yang universal sifatnya. Segalanya boleh ditukar mengikut kesesuaian.
Then you see, what they didn't tell you about is below the deck, there's still space. So those can be the storage area. And again, you see the deck, why they call it a deck. Like just now you can see the structural trusses, the metal ones. And usually they will just like, they call what? Siu horn call it? Well, our editor got it. So to join two metals together, you can just weld them. So usually they weld, and it's then bolts is when they want to add on the aluminium or the metal deck onto the thing. So that one is just bolt in, right? But what I'm trying to say is on top of that steel, then only they add the timber thing. So like you can see, the entire deck is floating because it's light. But tiny house, again, the biggest problem is storage. Where do I put my bicycle? Where do I put my water tank? I don't know. I don't see any water tank. Then like this, I think that is the water pipe, you see? These are the things that I am more curious about. But let's just finish the video first.
Kemampuan dan kreativiti kita sendiri, Lahile Tiny House akan menjadi satu tapak perkongsian trend, pengalaman dan desain buat semua peminat tiny house di Malaysia. Okey, sudah selesai saya tour Lahile Tiny House ini dengan pemiliknya, Mr. Allen dengan Puan Irene. Dengan hasil berkat idea kreatif mereka membuatkan saya teruja. Okey, jumpa lagi.
So I think, okay, first, I love it. I like the concept because the owner, Mr. Allen, is very clear, and I think based on his observation and his comments on the design, he clearly know what he wants. And because it's 300 square feet only, but the external space is way more than the square feet it is. So sometimes you wonder, right, why stick with 300 square feet? You have the whole land, right? Why 2 feet bigger lah? What's wrong with 2 feet bigger or 2 feet smaller, right? So that is when you engage an architect, those are the questions that you need to answer yourself. But looking at him, he clearly know what he wants. But like for example, the bedroom is measured to the size of the bed. Then also, I think why it stick to this dimension, like the width of the bed plus the toilet, maybe it's around like 8 feet to 10 feet max, is because that's the most efficient width for structural members without having another structural column. So like you see carport in terrace houses, like when you see, like, it's best that your carport is columnless, so that would be the most efficient dimension. Like if you see car parks within the high towers as well, so column to column is around 8 meters to 10 meters for a grid line. So that's the most efficient, cost efficient dimension. So on the width, on the length, then it's up to you lah. Then again also when we come back to why the bedroom is literally a bedroom. You need to climb on the wall itself. Then you are attached to the window, the sliding window. So it means the sliding window is in contact to the bed. You don't even have a corridor away from the bed. Why? Why couldn't you just like spare another 2 feet, which is 600 mm away from it? Then the whole experience would be way better. So I think these will be the challenges between the conversations of the owner versus the architect. If you add 2 more feet in, you know, it's no longer in the template design of the steel manufacturer. They need to custom make. Once it's customized, then it's extra cost, then extra time. Yeah, so those are the expensive things. Then I like that it's light. The whole structure is light, built on top, causing very little disturbance to the site. If you were to build a conventional solid house, a terrace house, single story, right? Just like what the architect said, I need to prepare the platform first, my machinery needs to come in, compact the soil, then I do concrete, then I do formwork, then I need to have a concrete truck in. It will cause so much damage in the process of constructing it. But when it's steel, when it's done in this manner, right, then almost everything within the site is retained because it's very little impact done to the site itself. Everything is elevated. So I really enjoy that. And the fact that they really like outdoors because the deck itself is way bigger than the house, and it's done in a slope manner so that you see the whole house is in a slope, and they use that to their advantage. It will be easier to do that in comparison to excavate and build a basement. So they leverage on the land topography, so they use this and they build a deck floating on top, then down there they can actually use it as storage. So I think all the little details, even the position of the windows, the specification of the shower, you can see its design, the basin, then the bathtub size is ngam-ngam, just like their bed. I think the owner's intention I admire. And not only structurally it's done that way, you can see the LED lights within the kitchen. I think like it's a layer I can just use like Pentafloor or a T5 light, right? It works the same, but they use LED, right? Downlight nicely. Then you can see even the facade, they got the wall light. So they are very particular, even on this, you can see the ambience light, the fairy light in a huge scale way. And yeah, and like the journey to the house, you can see the pathways, are dressed up in a very nice way. Even they have a Vespa that matches with the entire profile. Yeah, but what I would do differently is I will participate a little bit more on the landscape. So like now I think it's a difference, there's a difference between friendly plants versus non-friendly plants. So like I can just like, there's a difference between shrubs and trees. So I see a lot of trees, but like to make the experience better on the deck, because you can still see from the drone shot, there's here barren, there barren, there barren. So if you cover and dress up those areas, I think if you come back a year or two, right, it will look way better just by having some themes to the landscape. But I wish that they could have highlighted more technical issues, not the process of submission, the process of design. I think like where do they get the water source from? Like how do they resolve security? Like there's no grill, there's no gate. Anyone can come in and out, and if anything happen, like how do you go out? And those are the practical things. And to me, I can only imagine myself staying there. Like if I go in, it doesn't really matter to me. I'll just still edit videos and shoot YouTube videos, right? The reality of just giving up jobs, throw everything away, just put it behind and live in a tiny house when you can afford. I think the construction cost they didn't mention also. Easily, like because and every time they say they save costs, right? The construction costs of these are not entirely cheap one. So it's like, I think close eye, the construction for this is 100k, around there. So if on 100k solely on the house, then like the process of the architecture, or the process of the construction, then the fees and all included 150 with all the furnitures in 200. Then it's a matter of, again, the same topic, like isn't it better to just get an apartment? Because like the exit plan for this, again, the exit plan. If you were to sell this, how do you sell? Like, okay, like based on their personality, I don't think they will sell. It's going to be like a weekend home or whatsoever. Like when your kids will grow up, you just give yourself another 5 years, this is no longer relevant. It can be a fabulous Airbnb spot, right? Then that may be an exit plan. But then the roads and developments around the site, unless you own a huge surrounding, then yeah. To me, will I do this? I will do this for Airbnb returns. So if I were to do this at 100, 200,000, I have a piece of land in some kampong, it will be centuries before mainstream developments comes in. Yeah, so they are already nature person, so they will go nature. That's why you can see the canopy design. That is very nice. And you know, different materials of the canopy will have different price. Some have self-cleaning ability, yeah, so they use Teflon, but they still get dirty one. So you need to change all that again very frequently. Can we stand rain? Can we stand rain? But rain does not fall like that one. Rain falls this way with the wind. And they didn't talk a lot about, and that's the main concern for the materials within. So everything is timber, flooring is timber, what is also timber. I know it's nature lah, but practicality wise, like if your joints within the frames, like your bed is so close to the window, all beds are so close to the window. If you're leaking, so the joints, right, the owner needs to be really meticulous, but I bet he will be based on all the designs. And yeah, I can only admire the intention of the owner to do such a thing. But what I admire more is the wife lah, to ditch everything, right? I can live in a... it's so weird we have went through such evolution in technology and to go back in nature. Yeah, and like for the roads, like for my friend's durian plantation, we go there midnight, right? Basically, there's no light on there. There's no street lamps and things like that. You can only base on like, oh, I think it's around here. That's so scary. So like, how I wish they could have described way more on the site, like the journey there, the security around it. Yeah, so in terms of infrastructure, I think the house itself is perfect. I think it's nice. I would pay for a day there. So if they have a huge compound, then it's already protected, then they have a pocket land within that piece, then wow. I want to interview the dad more. How do you own such piece of land? Wow. But anyway, something very different. I love it. But again, just to think about the intent, when you have a blank canvas, suddenly a lot of people don't know what they want. So if you gotta really know what you want when you deal with ID designers or architect, because if not, the design process will take very, very long, right? And second thing, you need to think about costs. Like cost, they say, because the land is free. When we buy a house, we buy the land, the structure, and the development process and the construction process in the house. So the whatever house we are paying for is that. Then we also need to think about, in terms of investment wise, ultimately we want returns for what we do. What's the exit plan? Because after 5 years, maybe the kids are 18, they can just ask them to just leave lah, maybe. Then you go live on your life, then they will still stay here, then it makes sense. Or not, they all move to somewhere else, then this can be their Airbnb outlet, or weekend home that will generate quite handsome one as well. And number 4, which is the infrastructure and the facilities. So it means from a security standpoint, like at night when you have clear vista outside, right? It also means it's clear vista from outside to in. Yeah, so and it's all glass, then like what are the security measures and things like that. It only need one attempt. And that was the main challenge for stratified livings for houses without gates. Yeah, so those are the things. And then like for the landscape treatments, I would improve more on the landscape to make it more, like if there's a track down to the river, ooh, that would be so cool. People will pay so much premium for me and my rental, mine. Yeah, great property, love it. Will I stay? No. Will I? Yeah, will I? But I admire, like from an architectural standpoint, like this Mr. Allen is what a dream client. Like the architects are just draftsmen, you know, in this sense. I want this here, I want this here. They even draw out like the furniture, how to put wall. But you still pay me fees for design. And with that, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys like this. So if you have any suggestions, do drop down below. We will try to react to them, check them out. And I'm not gonna watch TV Diga ever again. It's so slow and so much ads. And yeah, the best thing about YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys on the next one. Ciao.